12 Crazy Goals. Time for a change. I, like many others, got introduced to the self-help industry as a result of being unhappy with the circumstances that existed in my life. I had been downsized as a result of a corporate consolidation, and I was unable to find a replacement job which paid anything near what I was formerly earning. Suddenly, I clearly understood the meaning of a relatively new term known as underemployed. To make matters worse, I was working in a position that was not a spiritual match for my soul. My job duties as an analyst for a large for-profit hospital corporation included explaining why the hospital I oversaw had a good or bad month financially. What really bothered me was, if we had a good month, that meant it was a tragic month for the patients and their families. It really hit home one day when I ran into a neighbor of mine in the cafeteria who told me that his mother had been admitted and that she was not going to be coming home again. The following month we had a great month financially, and I had to explain in my report that it was because we had an outlier. An outlier, in hospital lingo, refers to a patient who has billed charges that exceed $250,000. Seeing my neighbor at the hospital and knowing that his mother's prolonged death was boosting our bottom line, I knew I had to get out of this business. When it was bad, it was good, was not the kind of business I wanted to be in. Being unhappy with my professional life and simultaneously having financial challenges as a result of being downsized, I knew that I needed a major change. I don't remember how many times I could not sleep at night, and I would turn on the television to see Anthony Robbins' infomercial for his personal power system. I felt like he was really talking to me when he asked, "Are you ready to change your life? What are you waiting for?" The only problem I had was that I didn't have enough money or room on my credit card to buy his system. Well, the universe was not going to let money get in the way of getting personal power. The following morning, I ran into my friend Ron on the beach, and he told me that he had just bought it, and that he would let me borrow it as soon as he got through with it. Now I was fired up, and I remembered Tony saying that we needed to take massive action on the infomercial. So, rather than sit patiently and wait for Ron to finish the course, I got started immediately and went down to the local library and checked out a couple of self-help classics. One was The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy, and the other was The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. After reading these, it was clear that we could make massive changes in our lives for the better through the effective use of our subconscious mind. Early one morning, while sitting down on the beach, I meditated on the question, what should I be doing with my life? After a few minutes of meditating on that question, a movie started playing in my head. It was crystal clear, and it showed me being a real estate broker who was very active in charities, and there were pictures and thank you letters on the walls of my office. I don't know how long the vision lasted, but when I came out of meditation, I had tears of joy in my eyes, and my body felt like it was buzzing from head to toe. Whatever this was, it was powerful, to say the least. Over the next few days, I pondered over the idea that the universe was telling me I should be a broker. Was that right? At the time, I saw myself as a real estate investor, and realtors were just people who got in the way of making good deals. I also had committed to opening a real estate investment company with a friend of mine who was moving to Florida, so I was going to make that my main priority. In the meantime, the movie got tucked away in storage, only to be recalled at a later date. Ron finally finished going through Personal Power, and as promised, he let me borrow it. I thought it was amazing, and I started incorporating a lot of what I heard on the audio CDs into my daily routine. One of the things I really liked was what Tony called an hour of power. In his hour of power, he talked about getting up in the morning and spending an hour alone and following a routine which consisted of exercise, meditation, and reading motivational material. I made some tweaks to his program, and each morning after working out at the gym, I would drive down to the beach and spend 60 to 90 minutes on the beach doing my hour of power each morning before going to what I started to call my temp job. In my hour of power, I would get a cup of coffee at the local 7-Eleven and drive on to Siesta Key and down to Turtle Beach, which was at the southern end of the island. I would then grab my folding beach chair and a bag containing the books I was reading, a small copy of the New Testament, a notebook for brainstorming and scripting, my vision book, and my small notebook that contained my written goals. One of the things I started to notice was the fact that if it rained out and I could not sit on the beach for my hour of power, I could feel the difference in my energy level and mood. I would actually feel like I was mildly depressed, which was not how I wanted to start my day. One morning, while driving to the beach, I was listening to Tony Robbins talk about traveling across Russia on a train, and during the whole trip he worked on setting goals, then rewriting them bigger and bigger, until he was at a point where his goals seemed huge. When I arrived at the beach, I decided that it was time for me to make some big goals which were going to stretch me out of my comfort zone. I took out a notebook and I started to work on goals which would cover business, health and fitness, travel, relationships, and my spiritual connection with the universe. When I got done with the list, I had 12 goals written down, which to me at that time seemed absolutely huge. I knew that if these goals came true, I would have the life of my dreams. The next thing I started to do was to work with my list of goals and try to develop what each one would look like and what it would feel like when it manifested. I put a lot of thought into this as I was serious about getting the results that I wanted. What I did next was to create a small notebook in which I included some affirmations, a few quotes from the Bible about prayer, and a list of my goals. And after each of the goals, I drew a smiley face or two to represent happiness and gratitude for its coming into my experience. Goal number 1. I am happy. The first goal was pretty straightforward, and it meant that I was happy with all aspects of my life. When I would read this goal, I would get into a deep feeling of gratitude for how great it was to be happy, and I would truly experience the feeling of being happy. Goal number 2. I have no consumer debt. The second goal was a real stretch for me at the time because I felt like I was being crushed by consumer debt. I had credit cards that ended up being maxed out as a result of me trying to subsidize my loss of income from the downsizing. I also still owed on student loans that helped me finance my undergraduate and graduate degrees. The payment on the student loans felt like a car payment for a Porsche that would never be paid off, and the minimum payment on the credit cards felt like a mortgage. Between the credit cards and the student loans, I believe I owed roughly $35,000. I wish that was all I owed, but it was not. We also had car payments. Out of necessity, we bought 2 new cars before the downsizing, as the ones we had were breaking down frequently, with major repairs being needed. So add another $20,000 to the mix. Now we are up to roughly $55,000 in consumer debt, and that didn't include our mortgage of $100,000. The one word which best described this feeling I had at the time was hopeless. Well, Tony said think big, so I was taking his advice on this one. To create the visualization for this goal, I would see myself going to the mailbox at the end of the driveway. When I got to the mailbox, I would open it up to find it either empty or just containing some junk mail. I would then feel how good it was not to have any bills in the mail. At the time I set this goal, I got a sick feeling in my stomach every time I went to retrieve the mail in the mailbox, as it would be stuffed with bills, late notices, etc. If you are in a similar situation right now, let me tell you that it is not hopeless at all, and that miracles do happen. Read on. Goal number 3. I am a very successful full-time real estate investor and self-made millionaire. When I wrote this goal, I was in the process of unwinding a real estate portfolio of 10 rental homes which I had bought with my former business partner. he decided to move out of Florida, and we decided it was time to dissolve our real estate investment company. Creating the visualization for this particular goal was easy, as I was already in the business part-time. For this visualization, I would see myself running through what my daily routine would consist of as a full-time real estate investor. I would see myself driving to the beach for my hour of power in a white Ford F-150 pickup truck with an extra cab and a tan interior. I would see myself grabbing my folding beach chair, my bag of books, and the daily newspaper to scour the classifieds for potential properties. I would also see myself going to a closing, shaking hands with the buyers, and picking up a check for the profits from a fix and flip. One of the weirdest things that happened to me about 20% of the time that I tried to run this scene in my mind was that instead of driving a white pickup truck, a pearl white Lexus LS400 with gold package and chrome trim would show up in my visualization when I was trying to see the pickup truck. When this happened, I would come out of my visualization and wonder why the heck a luxury car was coming into my visualization. You can't haul sheetrock in a Lexus, so how was I going to be a real estate investor? It didn't make any sense. The next day, I would do the visualization again, and I would be happy to see my pickup truck back in my mind. Goal number 4. I am fit and active. I would say I am fit and active, more as an affirmation than something that I would visualize. At the time, I had already completed 3 Ironman triathlons. An iron distance triathlon consists of a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2-mile full marathon run. The training it takes to compete and successfully finish one of these is almost like having a second full-time job. So my goal was to maintain my fitness in the future. Goal number 5. We have newer vehicles owned outright. This I would say as an affirmation, and I would feel how good it felt not to have any coupon books for car payments. Goal number 6. We have disposable money to have real vacations. At the time I wrote this affirmation, we were broke, and the only vacations we could afford were to take time off from work and have a staycation at home in Florida. For this visualization, I would see us going on a ski trip to Colorado, and I would see my wife saying how much fun she was having, and I would have a feeling of gratitude that she was happy. Goal number 7. I am able to give a lot of money to help others in need, and I do. When I wrote this goal, I knew that I wanted to be a philanthropist. The reason I say that is that my wife and I had become active in Habitat for Humanity, which is a great cause. Habitat helps lower-income people afford a nice new home that they could not otherwise afford. The homeowners who get these homes pay for their down payment through sweat equity, which can often take them over a year to complete. On one Saturday morning, I asked the construction supervisor what types of appliances came with the finished homes. He said that they just came with a stove and a refrigerator. I told him that my wife and I were moving from a house to a condo and that we would not need our washer and dryer and would like to donate them if we could. The supervisor said that Mary, not her real name, could really use them, as she was a single mother with 4 children. We had actually been working on her house together that morning. I walked over to her and said that I heard that this was going to be her house. She replied with, "Yes, isn't it just beautiful?" I then asked her if she could use a washer and dryer for her new house, and that we had a set that we didn't need. I have a hard time describing what happened next. Mary screamed out, "Yes!" in excitement, and then hugged me. When she hugged me, this amazing feeling of joy rushed through my body. It was as if my whole body was buzzing. I had never felt anything like it before, but if this was what being charitable was like, I wanted to have this feeling all of the time. To visualize this goal, I would see myself being at the ribbon cutting for a new home to be donated to a family by Habitat. I would see myself being called up to hand the scissors and the keys to the new family. I could feel that feeling I had from Mary's hug, and I could see people clapping in joy for the new family.